And now, a message from New York State Attorney General Letitia James.
Hi, I'm Letitia James, New York Attorney General, and I want to make sure New Yorkers and all Americans get to vote in a free and fair election, which is why I'm sending a message to Donald J. Trump. And that message is, I'm coming for you. That's right. You tried to mess with all of us, not just New Yorkers. And I cannot with you right now. All right. Win, lose, or draw your ass across the pavement. I won't hurt you physically because that's illegal and I'm a lawyer and I get it. But I will sue your broke ass into oblivion. So in summation, Donald, lawyer up, but like a good lawyer, not like Rudy Giuliani, because we can all admit he's the worst, right? And he has a sweating problem. Someone should talk to him about that. See you in court.
Live from a bunker somewhere in Parkchester, the Bronx, it's the Electoral Dysfunction Election Night Spectacular. Here's your host, Tom Brennan.
Hey, good evening, and welcome to Electoral Dysfunction, the show where comedians and experts debate the news of the week from the safety of their quarantine. I'm your host, Tom Brennan. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our Election Night Spectacular, also our 45th show. 45 shows in honor of America's 45th and last president, Donald John Trump. We are thrilled to be doing tonight's show in conjunction with our pals at Frigid, New York. They're a wonderful theater space. We've worked with them plenty of times in the past. If you have a little extra cash to spare, please head on to their Patreon account. You can see it right there at the bottom of the screen. They are a wonderful theater space creating some incredible opportunities for artists and a safe place for artists to create their work. Please help them out. The pandemic has hit them pretty hard, and we want to see them running for a long time to come. So we will be with you until the polls close on the West Coast tonight, around 11 p.m. We're going to break in. We got comedy, we've got music, we've got guests, all kinds of great stuff, and we will break in with important news as it hits. Thank you for being with us on what is sure to be the most important election of our lifetime since the last one, and until the next one, if there is a next one. With that, I'm going to bring in tonight's panel. First up, a very, very funny comedian. You know him from The Onion, from The Layoff Kids, Pittsburgh's greatest son. James Heskey is with us tonight. Hey, James, how are you?
Absolutely terrified, and but I've got a good bottle of scotch, and that's not helping.
It never does. I always wish that it would, but it always makes me feel a little bit worse.
Not helping. But yeah. So I'm still holding out hope. I still think things are okay. But oh boy, it's not as fun as I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, so far. I mean, much like a first date. Tonight. Almost as good as we'd hope. Bringing our next panelist, very funny comedian. You know her from the old school sketch comedy Community. She is also, I love saying this, a deacon and a veteran of the Air National Guard. So she is a G.I. Joe action figure herself. Hannah Bell is with us. Hey, Hannah, how are you?
Hi, Tom. Hi, James. I'm okay.
Good.
We're in this ride now. Let's ride it to the end. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, get that Midwest positivity going right now. I think thoughts tonight. Did you vote today, or did you vote early voting here in New York?
I made sure to fulfill my civic duty early. I went Friday morning, and it was a breeze. Shout out to all the poll workers putting in time today and time throughout the early voting period of 2 weeks. They made it easy.
They really did. It was a wonderful experience here in New York. And our last panelist tonight, another very funny comedian from the United States Army, from The Nightly Show, from Making Sure You Fill Out Your Census. Benari Polton is with us. Hey, Benari, how are you?
Doing fantastic. Just a joy to be doing this here tonight.
Benari, I realize this 4 years ago tonight, 4 years ago, election night, you and I did a comedy show and smugly assumed everything would be fine.
Yes, until I got on the train, and when I got off in Brooklyn an hour and a half later and Pennsylvania was still too close to call, my attitude changed very drastically.
Yeah, I remember us being like early. It was like all those states were early to call. And we're like, oh, this could be over in 20 minutes. Womp womp.
Yeah, the lesson is never count on Florida.
That's right. Well, hey, I mean, you'd think we'd have learned that by now, and yeah,
we never learn, and that's the American way.
It's because they got Disney World.
Yeah,
we'll give them a second chance because they got Disney World.
There's absolutely nothing more American than hate watching Florida on election night.
That's true.
My very first election when I turned 18 was Bush Gore.
So there you go. See?
Nice. So you learned early not to count on Florida.
Yep.
No matter how hard we try.
Yeah. And I am drinking a Miller High Life, the champagne of beers, because like tonight, it's not great, but it's not terrible. It's exactly what I thought it would be.
Oh, boy, that's the boy. Well, I really, if Biden wins,
the job done.
Yep,
and it gets the job done. So
if Biden wins, he's the Miller highlight of candidates.
It gets the job. It gets the job done, and I don't have to think about it. It's not going to keep me up.
Yeah,
I'm not waking up in a panic.
I might every once in a while wake up feeling not so great, but like I'm not anxious. Yeah, no,
I'm looking around in the fridge, and I'm like, do I have anything else? No, fine.
Yeah. You find a bar with a $3 Miller High Life deal, you're developing a drinking problem right that night.
I mean, like, I would prefer health insurance, but I'll take High Life.
I'll take the High
Life. Boy, we just figured out. I think we just got to the core of the problem in Florida.
Yeah. Like if I could have one or the other.
Our friend Robert George will be joining us later this evening. He's doing real television.
What? What's this?
Okay, Robert.
Not even real. It's local TV. So, like,
great.
We've got easily as many viewers as ABC 7.
Is he on like that MSNN channel
that's
right. Like just streams?
Yeah,
I don't think we're allowed to call it that. Oh, never mind. Okay.
You call it that, James.
James Heskey. James Heskey on the board.
Wow.
With that, let's pull up our map and take a look.
I have just one Georgia.
Great.
There you go. Well,
yes, he did. Pull up our map and take a look.
Let's go to the American map.
So, folks across the country might have slightly different maps based off what network is called what. We're going through our friends at 270 to win. They tend to go based off a majority of states of network consensus. So this is a general idea of where the map is right now. 115 for Biden, 120 for Trump. New York went for Biden. That must be hard for Trump, to grow up in Queens and then have New York reject you. Think about that a lot. Biggest surprise of the night so far, state of Florida. Maybe not a big surprise. We can talk about that for a moment. But the state of Florida has been called for Donald Trump by most media outlets at this point. And I think it's an interesting question because Florida was like the swing state for the longest time. But now it's, I would argue, particularly after 2018, it kind of started to show with Andrew Gillum and Bill Nelson were leading pretty handily in the polls. And then, it just didn't quite work out for them in the end. They lost. And on top of that, a Republican Supreme Court that immediately instituted a poll tax for any of the newly allowed to vote ex-felons from last time around. And it seemed like it was going to be a hard sell for Florida. But what do we think? Has Florida's days as the swing state of swing states finally ended? Yes.
And I think it's about time.
Yeah. Think so? Think Florida's gotten a little too much love, Hannah?
Yeah. I mean, just too much attention. Like it's always about Florida year after year or cycle after cycle after cycle. So, okay, Florida, I see you now.
Yeah.
Florida is the new Texas, and Texas is the swing state of the 21st century.
That's right. And as we speak, taking a look over at our friends at Politico's map, Texas still too early to call. North Carolina still too early to call. Those are two states that have been pretty ruby red for a long time.
Yeah.
And yet, right now, still too early to call, particularly on the development in the urban areas. James, you're keeping an eye on North Carolina. What are we seeing there right now?
So I'm watching other people watch North Carolina, and what I can tell you is what they're saying is that so Biden's up a little less than 2 points right now with 80% of the vote in. What's hard is that it's hard to know exactly where some of the vote is still needs to come in from. There does seem to be 18% still needs to come from Wake County, where I don't know what is in Wake County, but there's a lot of people there. So there's
and it's a blue county tradition.
Yeah, it's a blue county. So it's Biden is winning
part of that research triangle, I believe.
Yeah, 65-33. Yeah, so maybe that's where Raleigh is. Oh yeah, because Durham is right next to them. So I'm guessing that's where Raleigh, the Raleigh area is. So it's but Wake County has Biden's leading it like he has 355,000 votes to Trump has like 180,000. So so another 18% of that is significant. And a lot of these other counties that still are yet to report are much smaller, 10 and 20,000 vote counties. So so hopefully this will hold. He's up 1.5, 2 points. So
yeah, and hopefully he boosts Cunningham in North Carolina. I think more important tonight.
That's the Democratic Senate candidate Cal Cunningham, who sent the tamest but still sexting text scandal of the last 10 years.
It was quaint. It was actually a nice little throwback. It was like, oh, that's what 80s politics was like.
Yeah. You know what it was? It was if you read those texts, they're the text of a man in trouble. I was just like, oh man, this guy's got to get to therapy.
But I am cautiously optimistic that the two help each other out. And if you carry North Carolina and you win a Senate seat, I think the bigger storyline that's sort of underreported tonight is that all of this is irrelevant if the Democrats can't pick up the Senate, because so much progress has been stopped in the Senate, has been stopped dead in its tracks by Mitch McConnell, who has not only refused to govern, but has refused to even go with the will of the majority of people. And he is, he's winning his reelection in Kentucky. So the only way to stop his reign of terror is to win back the Senate. And
hopefully whatever's going on with his skin is something that I just hope he's okay. Is what I'm saying. I hope he's fine and did nothing. I just hope, it would be terrible if he was just on the Senate floor and let's say a limb, I don't know, fell off.
It's dropped right on.
That would be awful. I
think you can only contain so much evil for so long before you just start rotting from the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I'm impressed that you consider Mitch McConnell, what he's doing is containing his evil. Forcing it up. I just think there's just so much in there.
A lot.
One other state that's surprising people at this hour, and of course, anything can change. We got a long night ahead. It's fascinating to me that so many people before polls closed were like, oh, it's a long night, we can't predict. And then the minute the polls closes, people are like, well, calling it now. But the state of Ohio.
With 1% in, we're calling it.
I can't look at this. I'm looking at this Politico map, and I was like, oh, God, he's winning Wisconsin. And I look at the vote totals, and it was 400 votes in total. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Come on, media, get to 20% before you start making these calls. They had New Hampshire as in the red column all day because that town of insane survivalists that votes at 2 a.m. with 15 people in it, 11 of them went for Trump and 5 of them went, or 4 of them went for Biden.
There's two survivalist places.
I'm sorry, explain it as a survivalist town, Bernard.
There's Dixville Notch, which votes first. They now have only 5 residents. All 5 residents voted for Joe Biden, and then they have. And then they have,
make it easier,
or whatever the survivor.
Yeah, town Westworld is the other one. We'll call it Westworld.
And they voted for, they voted for. So.
Well, there's a town that blew away in North Dakota. I was raised in North Dakota, and there's folk around Mose is the town that blew away. So nobody could vote in Mose. Don't quote me on that.
I don't.
Yeah.
And yet somehow that entire county voted for Kennedy in
Fox is
1960.
Fox is reporting 100% for Trump right now.
Yeah.
From that non-existent town.
Yeah, somehow Mose
So
just
weird.
swung the election. As Mose goes, so goes the country.
But Mose went already. It's gone. It blew away.
God, it's ding dong.
It was one time it tried to vote Democrat, and
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell went to his cauldron and said, "Here, I'll give you more of my right hand. Now get rid of Mose forever." We've got a lot more to take a look at tonight. Particularly, we've got Senate races to take a look at. But before we do that, let's take a real quick look at some of the other top news stories from today. Jenny, let's throw it over to a quick look at the news.
Extra, read all about it. Extra.
Oh,
Read
my
all
goodness.
about it.
Hey, oh boy, this is a big treat for Electoral Dysfunction fans. It's fan favorite newsboy Phil. Phil, how are you? You look terrified.
I'm running for my life. Everybody's asking me for the news. But the truth is, we all read it. We all know what's happening.
Yeah.
There's nothing left for me to say.
Yep. So people are just like, hey, they've left Twitter, quit doom scrolling, and now they're just chasing you in hopes that you'll give them headlines that will make their lives a little happier.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, I'm wearing a mask now because I can't. I'm on the streets, trying to be careful, trying to be conscientious.
Well, that's
But
good
really,
of you. And in case folks who might be new to the show, Newsboy Phil, of course, a newsboy cursed to eternal life back in 1918, although he can be killed by diseases. But
that's right. COVID is a killer of humans and monsters alike.
it's very true.
Our president was infected, which is proof that monsters can be.
That's very true. Very true. Good point. But Tom Hanks was infected, so humans can get it as well.
Even
That's
the
how
greatest. Tom,
Yeah.
can I be honest with you?
Of course, Newsboy Phil. You can be honest. This is a safe space for you.
I'm so tired. This year has kicked my ass.
Yeah, so say we all.
Right? Instead I'm tired of living in poverty. I'm tired of living in boxes filled with rats and cats.
I had a question. About a week ago, there was a story. A guy just was walking down the street here in New York City, hit a sinkhole, went straight down into a pile of rats. Did you hear about that story?
Yeah, I had to move out immediately after.
Oh, no. That's terrible. Anyway, so as you're saying, you can't do this anymore, huh, Newsboy
No,
Phil?
this is the end of an era. The 5 years of this year have certainly aged me. I'm starting to feel like maybe not selling out, but maybe just buying in. Maybe it's time I pack it up.
Newsboy
Maybe
Phil
it's
putting on a
time
tie.
I quit this.
Oh.
You know,
No, don't
maybe-
quit, Newsboy Phil.
maybe things are just not going the way I'd like them to be, and maybe it's time. It wasn't such a newsboy that took care of the news, but maybe a newsman Phil.
Oh my gosh, Newsman Phil. I have a quick question. Would it be Newsman Phil or Newsman Philip?
Oh, newsman Phillips, plural.
Newsman Phillips, plural. Just like the screwdriver. Wow. Well, this is the end of the era. Newsman Phillips.
That's right.
Where are you broadcasting out of there, Newsman Phillips?
Oh, it's WGH or WTF
Sure.
news hall over here. We're somewhere in Times Square.
Oh,
just
okay.
reporting out of these guys they're all just sort of standing here. They've been drinking for hours.
Oh, good.
No,
I thought that WGF-WTAF was out of the greater Schenectady area, but I see you're down in Times Square tonight.
That's right. We are down here just making sure that there's no one blocking any traffic. I mean, we make our bones off of breaking news now, and I got to tell you, kind of wish I lived in New Jersey this weekend. Because of all of the MAGA.
Of course, of all the MAGA. Oh man, they got my sister on the Tappan Zee Bridge, so I hear you. Well, Newsman Phillips, plural.
That's right.
We'll miss Newsboy Phil, but I guess Newsman Phillips is the no matter who wins tonight, it's a brand new America, huh?
It's a brand new America, brand new day. We'll see who wins, one or the other. You know what? If Joe Biden wins, at worst, he'll tell us ice cream doesn't have bones. Who am I to judge?
Who indeed are you to judge? Well, Newsman Phillips, wonderful to meet you. Newsboy Phil, we'll miss you forever. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. I'll let you get back to it. Thank you so much, Newsman Phillips. Oh, boy.
Back to you in the studio, Tom.
Thank you.
Phew. It's been a rough 4 years, all right, guys. But I just want to take a minute and talk about my dad. My daddy is my hero. He's kind and smart and fun. He coached my little league, great at dad joke puns. He drove me to dance class. We talk about our lives. Without his guidance, I wouldn't have survived. I grew up and moved out. He was always there, just a phone call away, to show me that he cared. He was my teacher, my role model and friend. He always came through, on him I could depend. Raised money for good causes, was always there for his friends. Gave good advice to his colleagues without excuses, always made amends. I keep singing verses, I just don't want to hit the chorus. I don't want to sing it, it'll be too hard for us. I guess I'll just say it instead. My dad voted for Trump, 2016. A lifelong Republican, but said, hey, let's try this drain the swamp thing with this apprentice reality TV star guy, right? So I just held on and I prayed things would change. You know. The first time around, I thought he'd regret and turn effing Fox off the TV set. He'd see all the damage, the 4 years of hell, the scandals, hypocrisy, lies, gaffes, and well, you know, that's a hard no. Yeah, he didn't see that. You know, I tried, I pleaded, I argued, I begged, I utilized facts. He just mailed in his ballot for Trump. A little bit ironic, but, you know. At least my mom isn't voting for Don, a big relief I sigh. But to be fair and morbidly honest, she's not voting because she died. One less vote for Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kelly Dwyer. That is.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Wow. She
how it's
sent that
done.
video in and she was like, I'm going there. And I was like, all right, okay. And then at the end, well, there you go. We're coming in at 10 o'clock. Still a lot of states to be determined. That's still where we are. We're still in this sort of holding pattern. Trump is starting to scoot back up in Ohio.
And North Carolina.
And North Carolina. Hickenlooper has won Colorado, though, and it looks like Biden. So that's one Senate seat.
And Democrats currently on offense in the Senate map. They are only defending 2 seats, really. Michigan, Gary Peters, and Alabama with Doug Jones. Doug Jones is in a tough spot. Gary Peters, could have a good night. I think an important thing that people have been telling everyone about this election, and a thing that people have to keep in mind, is that Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania take a long time to count their votes. They take a very long time. They don't even start counting the mail-in votes until the day of the election, until the day after the election.
Until the day after. Pennsylvania.
Some counties are like, I think Allegheny County started this morning, where Pittsburgh is started this morning.
Right, they get started.
But some counties, it's just it wasn't funded because we have a Republican legislature. So,
James,
and they also have a limit, it has to all be counted by Friday or something. You can't start counting early, but it has to be.
That's right. Yeah,
and you can only use your left hand.
Yeah,
and God help you if you vote while the Amish are out churning their butters, because then all those ballots get thrown out right away. James, you're one of Pennsylvania's greatest sons. I always say, you represent, I think, the that state very well. What is it about Pennsylvania? I feel like Pennsylvania is one of the few states that, like, as the swing state, we're talking earlier about how like Florida was the swing state. Seems like it's probably a red state now, whereas other states are starting to drift into swing state territory. Pennsylvania's kind of stayed that way. It's gone from like a Rust Belt swing state to almost, it's also got similar attributes to some of these Sun Belt swing states as well with big cities. What is it about Pennsylvania? What's their deal?
Yeah, so you got to remember, this is the same state that where like half of our citizens' reaction to the Penn State scandal child molestation scandal was to defend the school. So
but they win.
No, hey, they waited 4 years before they put up a statue of him.
Yeah. My buddy and our friend Chip Chantry had my favorite joke about it, which is they keep the Joe Paterno statue up, just have it face the other way. It's a perfect joke.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
That's sort of what Pennsylvania is, and we're
ignoring child molestation.
Yeah. No, but it's very much, we're like, hey, that's my team.
Right.
So that's it, we sorry, I drank a tumbler of scotch, so now I'm starting to forget some of my words. But we very much get divided into our teams, and then we get angry and bitter, and there's a whole bunch of us who are still really mad. Like, what do you mean I can't work in a steel mill anymore? I loved getting lung cancer and dying at 46.
Right.
The coal mines too are in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah. Biden has to lie about how great fracking is.
Yeah. I'm not going to get rid of fracking except on federal land, but we're not going to talk about that. I love it.
Otherwise we won't, but maybe we will.
I was in Chester County during the Kerry campaign, and so I got to know the weird makeup, because a lot of the get out the vote prior to 2004 was just run up the count in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and like that area, and then just forget the suburbs, forget like these outer areas. And in 2004, we started digging up votes elsewhere, and it's one of the reasons why I think the purple state kind of went blue, and I think a little bit was taken for granted. But I think the other thing that was taken for granted in 2016 was there's still like a pretty misogynist streak in that, like working class, like everyday guy, blue collar worker is also like, and women don't need to be in the workplace, and I don't need to like be told. Yeah. I don't need to be told about pronouns. Like it's both like pro union, but like very anti, respecting.
Yeah. As a friend of mine, I went to college in Philadelphia, and a friend of mine put it perfectly a few days ago. Pennsylvania is a state full of people who like two things: being racist and not paying for health care. And that's sort of the dilemma. Hannah,
I have a different perspective on Pennsylvania.
Please.
Not to negate anything that has been shared. I was in the National Guard for 2.5 years out of Johnstown. In Johnstown, at the time I was there, and I'm sure that the same is true. Its economy is like completely different. So it's like it's people feeling left behind. And again, you hit the notes of like, the industries that you used to depend on or could depend on are dried up. Your perspective or your point of view is out of touch. So how do you reach people in that place? And what can people depend on? And I think places like Pennsylvania and North Dakota, Trump spoke to those voters.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right, because you look at there's a very diverse economy in Pennsylvania. It's actually one of the reasons why it's difficult to kind of pinpoint what your campaign message is. There is like, you go to Coatesville, which was like an old steel town, and like those jobs went away, and so it's very much like the forgotten worker kind of guy, right? And then you're close to the coal miners or whatever. All these all these sources of energy, that those jobs are probably going away in the next 10 years, and they feel that, they know that. But they actually also have a pretty good developing renewable energy economy happening in other parts of Pennsylvania, where they've made the transition to other forms of energy as a good, valid source of job development, economic development, and redevelopment for cities and towns. And so, in these areas, they're seeing like, oh, we can move forward. And these other places, they're like, we got left behind. And then you have like the Amish, and then you have farmers, and then you
The
have
Amish are like, forget about it. We don't even want to.
Yeah, and then
We
you
have our
like,
own sex scandal.
Yeah.
Child abuse scandal. It's different.
Yeah. Look, even they are in on their teams.
Yeah, we lost that.
Benari, we've lost your audio, but it's very fun to watch you talk. Keep doing it. Keep going.
And we get it.
Tribalism. That's,
Different
by the way,
economy.
the word I was trying to come up with before was tribalism.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Pennsylvania is a very we're big on that.
That's
I just wanted to say it finally popped into my head.
Yeah.
Now that it's 4 minutes later.
That's clever. So. It was worth the wait. I think one other, the other part of the world that we're going to be looking at, Michigan, Wisconsin, likewise, we're going to be waiting on the count from there. Hannah, you're from Wisconsin originally, all the way back when. Talk to us a little bit about the Wisconsin voter.
I don't know. I was born there and
never mind
left at years old. But it seems like a confusing state to watch cycle after cycle, or maybe not so much. I feel like they're pretty much red. I feel like all the places I've lived except New York and Hawaii are red.
It's a redder country than we like, is a thing we tend to learn every election cycle.
Well, no, I don't think it is. I think red people are more consistent in their voting practices. That's
true. They're willing to make compromises if the bottom line benefits what they're looking for. Which I don't have a problem with that. I respect that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Anna. They're willing to go out no matter what to support whomever is Republican or pretending to be Republican. Whereas like the left, it's like wrangling cats. There's so many different factions and people willing to like, I'm sitting this one out for this reason and I'm sitting this one out for that reason. And
we purposefully don't run our best people because we're like, I don't think other people will like them.
Exactly. What? I'm so tired of the negative bias thing. I'm tired of picking between the lesser of two evils. I'd like to just vote for somebody I think is really great.
Yeah, we still don't have Benari's audio.
We still don't have audio.
Sorry.
So how about we're going to figure out that, but for right now, we're going to throw it over to a quick conversation with our Senate expert. Let's talk about the Senate. Jenny, let's throw over to our convo on the Senate. Now, in addition to the presidential race happening right now, the battle for the Senate is underway already tonight. We've seen some surprising wins, some heartbreaking losses, with polls still yet to close and the final makeup of the chamber to be determined. Here to join us to talk about it, our old pal on loan from Major League Curling through a provision in the CARES Act, Kent McClarkelson, coming to us from Vancouver, Canada right now. Kent, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing A-okay. I'm doing great, Tom.
Well, good. I'm glad someone is tonight. So let's talk about the United States. I'm sorry, is there a curling game going on behind you right now?
Actively, very actively. The positivity rate is low enough that they don't even have to wear masks at this point. What type of dystopian society are we living in right now, Tom? This certainly is the 1986 World Series where Mookie Wilson hit the ball right between Bill Buckner's legs with Tim Tuffle coming home and rounding and getting there, and batters up, Tom.
I'd like to unpack that metaphor, but we don't have time. So let's talk the biggest, of course, maybe one of the biggest seats up for grabs this year, the Senate race in Maine. Susan Collins making some enemies on the left in the past few years with her votes on the Trump tax cut, with her votes on Brett Kavanaugh. And she faced a pretty steep challenge from Sarah Gideon. What are your thoughts on Maine? What are your thoughts on the Senate race and the way it breaks down there?
Well, Maine is a rather interesting state, and even more importantly, it's home of noted journeyman racquetball player Stephen King.
Really?
That's right.
I didn't know.
Stephen, yes.
He had a career in racquetball.
Yes, he was, I believe on the ladder, he was about a 4.0 on the ladder. Pretty solid, a little bit of a weak backhand game, but as we all know, he ended up writing It, which was about 12 ne'er-do-well kids who harassed a poor, gigantic 11-foot clown who's could only find the only affordable housing he could find was in a suburban drain. Now, isn't that a metaphor for America, Tom?
It sure is. Kent, you're absolutely right. I have never read the book. I've only seen the movies, but I'll take your word for it that that's the plot in the book. Let's move west. Another big seat up for grabs tonight. Cory Gardner, senator from Colorado, Republican, defending his first term against very popular Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper. Gardner considered one of the two most at-risk senators, along with Doug Jones of Alabama. Looked like in the last few months, Gardner just kind of cashed in his chips, decided he was all in on the Trump agenda, and we'll see where things work out. Hickenlooper's lead him in the polls despite some stumbles on his own. What are your thoughts about what's going on in Colorado, Kent?
Ooh, in Colorado, you know what, Tom? I'd say it's heated, good, but in fact, it's rather cold. Why? The Rockies. That's right. Well, Colorado, home of rogue survivalists, ski bums, and the roided-up 1998 roster of the Colorado Rockies, starring Andreas, Atlas Shrugged, and No One Cared, Galarraga, and Ellis Burks.
Let's go to one last Senate seat. Alaska. This was thought to be handily a Republican seat. Republican Dan Sullivan defending, but independent Al Gross has shown to be a pretty decent candidate for Senate. He's running as an independent, but will caucus with the Democrats, and he also happens to be a doctor and hunter. What are your thoughts about Dr. Gross?
Well, I'll tell you what's not gross. Alaska. I'm doing this with my hands to really show you. Well, I'll ask you this, Tom. Did you know that Alaska is home of the Iditarod Rod Sterling? Did you know that? Did you know that, Tom?
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
You did not know that.
Kent, as always, it's always a pleasure to see you. I hesitate to even dare to ask what you think about South Carolina or Alabama.
South Carolina, come on and raise up. Take your shirt off, twist it around your head, spin it like a helicopter. That's right, home of the hammer throw, Tom. Batters up.
Kent, always good to see you. I'd love to have you stick around for the rest of the night.
What's that? There's a dog food eating contest at the dog store. I gotta go, Tom. Bye.
Bye, Kent. Kent McClarkelson, ladies and gentlemen. With that, I'm gonna kick it back to Brooklyn to our old pal David Frazier to give us a little bit of sunshine on this tense night.
My name is Donovan the Destroyer Duncan. And I've got a message to a very special young man out there. You listen here, mate. I just got done my 34th fight, and I fought with everything I had. That is until my opponent ripped my fingers out, and he actually ripped all of my toes out and then replaced my fingers with my toes. And long story short, I lost the match. But you know what? I never gave up. Look, it seems as though right now you don't exactly have an option. You're gonna lose. That's what it's looking like. That doesn't mean that you can't be the best loser. Never quit quitting. You never give up giving up. Don't let anyone tell you that your career is over, all right? You got a long career ahead of you, you know? You're only in your mid to late 70s. Right now, you're a loser, but you're gonna be the best loser ever. America's #1 loser. Me and you. Oh, I got a headache. Can someone get me an aspirin? You know, mate, tonight feels familiar to me. It feels a lot like my first fight. I remember being intimidated, you know, I was nervous. So I started lying every day. I'm the best fighter in the UK. I'm the best undefeated fighter in the world. I can lower your taxes. You know, things like that. But you want to know what happened? You want to know what happened? I lost the fight. I got knocked out. Before reattaching itself, my head popped off of my neck. And after I lost the match, I decided to pick my head up with the help of several medical professionals and a neck brace. And I said, I'm gonna move forward. Of course, with the help of a nurse and a wheelchair. And listen, I know this is a really tough loss. It hurts your ego, it hurts your spirit, it hurts your soul. It hurts inside, I know. But you never give up giving up. Give up, but never give up giving up. We all know you didn't want the job in the first place, mate. So, you'll be fine.
Donovan the Destroyer Duncan, my friends. A message for every loser tonight, of which there will be many, because there are 435 House seats, 36 Senate seats, 1 presidential race, bunch of governorships, all kind of good stuff. Let's throw the map up on the screen if we can. We can take a quick look at the situation.
I love a map.
Yep, Benari loves a good map.
Just like I love good audio.
That's right. Benari, hey, we can hear you again. I enjoyed watching you pantomime, though. That was fun. So here's where we are. We're still more or less where we were a little bit ago, checking in on the numbers. Trump has taken a slight lead in Ohio. He's narrowed the gap in North Carolina. You know, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. We're seeing votes come in, but again, it seems like almost borderline not worth it to call, you know, those states until they start doing the real counting tomorrow. Big story that's happening right now. Arizona results came in. Joe Biden having a pretty solid lead in Maricopa County, which is pretty big. What are we, you know, at this point, we're at, you know, 10:15 on election night. I'm curious, Benari, you know, what would you like? What would you? Let's say you're working in the campaign. What would your stance be right now to the volunteers, to the folks out there?
That if we take Arizona, we're ahead of the game, because that's Wisconsin, right? So if you're really looking at this, the must wins are, you got to hold all the states that you won in 2016 and just pick up 2 out of the 3 that we know we lost by a few thousand, which was Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Well, Wisconsin's 10. If you pick up Arizona, that's 11 right there. Now you've already solved one problem. You've now given yourself a little bit of a buffer.
Yeah.
That one of those 2 states now. Maybe you only need to win one of those 3 states now. So and it's also just a good sign to kind of come out of the night with like a pretty decisive flipped state. And that also means that you win the Senate seat there, because Mark Kelly is doing pretty well. If anything, Mark Kelly probably helped Joe Biden in Arizona.
Yeah, I'd say it almost reminds me of Virginia in 2008 when you had a chance for a Democrat to make inroads, but they had a pretty strong Senate candidate who kind of dragged the presidential ticket, flipped it on its head. James Heskey, how you doing over there? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Sorry, I was trying to get some the North Carolina vote, and audio started playing, and I was trying to pay attention to 2 things at once, and my brain shorted out.
Quite all right. Keep it up. Let us know what's happening in North Carolina when your brain.
Trump is in the lead now.
Okay.
So
with I think somewhere in the realm of 19% still to come in there, or 15.
Yeah, so I had to get out of it because it started playing audio, and I couldn't figure out how to get it to stop. So I will get it back to you in a second. He seems to have a little bit of a lead now. So I don't know, North Carolina. It would have been really nice to have that.
Well, we haven't lost it yet, so don't worry, James.
Worrying is what I do.
That's true. Good point. I've decided to throw myself in the bizarre position of being optimistic today. I don't quite know why.
Time to go. I love it.
Weird, right? It doesn't work for me, I don't think.
Yeah, not a fan.
I don't quite like it.
I'm co-signing this tonight.
I appreciate co-signing the optimism, or co-signing
Co-signing the optimism.
Let's do it. Why not? Anyone joining the stream just now, this is Electoral Dysfunction. I'm Tom Brennan, James Heskey, Benari Polton, Hannah Bell with us. If you want to take a moment, our friends at Frigid New York, who are helping us produce this show, run some of the greatest theater spaces in this town. We love them. And they create such a supportive atmosphere for artists to try out new work, to them to develop shows, develop ideas, develop stories. They got hit pretty hard by the COVID-19 crisis. You can see their Patreon info scrolling along the bottom of the page. Please, if you got money to spend, send a little money their way. This crisis has really wrought some serious havoc on the theater spaces in New York City, with them particularly, and they're great friends of ours, and we'd love to help them out. And that brings me to, I think, when you think about what's at stake tonight, what's at stake, and Benari, you made the point before that like a Democratic controlled Senate is as relevant as Joe Biden as president. We are in it seems bizarre to me. Not bizarre. I guess it's a whole thing that Donald Trump doesn't like. But it's crazy to me. Like, we are in the middle of maybe the worst crisis since the Great Depression right now. We have a healthcare crisis that is still happening. We had our single largest day of COVID infections last Friday. Of the year. Like, this crisis has not gone away. It has led to an economic crisis, and so much is on the line, and like so much, it seems like the Republicans made it pretty clear this year that they are not, at least in an election year, there were limits to what they were going to do to help rebuild, and so it's as much a Senate game as it is a presidential game. Benari, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you're saying since the Great Depression, it's as if the Great Depression and the flu pandemic of 1918 and the Watts riots and Kent State and Vietnam all happened at the same time on the same day, and half the country still went, you know what, I like this, I'm sticking with this and stay the course. And it is baffling. This gets to the tribalism issue. It is baffling that your loyalty to your so-called team is so strong that you can look at the number of people out of work. You can look at over 250,000 people dead. The cases are rising again, that there is no economic relief coming, that the people in charge have abdicated their responsibility, and that there are people that are looking at this, and I'm looking at these states like Florida, and we're banking on it, and then it just kind of goes the way we thought it was going to go, that it didn't change their mind, that they still want to stick with their team, even though it's like that scene in Infinity War when Thanos' forces are attacking Wakanda, and they have the shields up, and then all the aliens are like going through and they're killing themselves, they're dying, and Okoye looks at it and says, they're killing themselves. Like that's what it's like watching right now. It's like, what are you doing? You are doing active harm to yourselves. Forget us, But anyway, that's what it seems like.
I gotta say, I will also just as a liberal left wing nut job. At this point
on watch lists, James.
Yeah, I will never ever forgive the moderate Democrats in our party who turned Bernie Sanders, who hate Bernie Sanders, who decided he was a bad guy. I think that was one of the worst things that happened to our party. It's a guy who is literally just trying to bring good ideas to our party, and even if you look, he's an asshole. But they're all assholes. Everybody who is in this game is an asshole. Elizabeth Warren is a fucking asshole. I'm sure of it. Sorry. She seems like a nice grandma, but I'm sure she's an asshole.
I mean, you can't become a senator without being somewhat of an asshole. Your argument.
Right. Okay. And you don't run for president if you're not an asshole.
You're not a crazy person.
Well,
right.
This is actually,
I will never forgive him they turned him into a bad guy for literally bringing the best ideas and
then incorporating those ideas and a large number of those ideas into not just the platform, but as time goes on, this is the problem I think that we have, like long term. It's not just him. You can go back and you can look at any number of really good Democratic candidates who we turn into bad guys because of like a 2 to 3 year long primary process, where we spend more time fighting for the primary than we do in a general, than fighting against the actual opposition party.
Right.
And so we spend more time fighting amongst ourselves over small differences, whether it's $12 minimum wage or $15 minimum wage. And now it's just accepted that it's $15 minimum wage, but that fight 2 years ago was absurd and split the party, so all these things where we actively split ourselves because we spend more time publicly fighting over who's the right person for this or what's the right way to go over here. And meanwhile, the existential threat that continues, the monster is still out there.
Second and instead, there's now a chance that for the second time, we're going to blow an election to a guy who is a game show host, who is a mentally unstable game show host, or openly racist, and just a gigantic piece of shit who's also doesn't have two brain cells that work. He's a piece of shit salesman, and we're losing to him because we didn't put up any. To be honest, we didn't put up good ideas. We put up a nice feeling. We put up a fucking grandpa. I'm
going to push back on that because I think you're right that there are definitely moderate Democrats in the party who went against Sanders. I agree with that 100%. I don't think Joe Biden's one of them. I think Joe Biden went out of his way to reach out and bring Bernie Sanders in. And
I'm not blaming Biden for this.
Well, no, and I would say, to your point, I think incorporating those ideas in the agenda, and it went through, the compromise process. But I think you're right. I'm curious when I say what your thought is to the fact that that at least some of the moderates learned the lesson. Biden reached out to him. Chuck Schumer has made Sanders sort of like a right-hand man on a lot of things in the Senate. Do you think that beyond this election, I guess my question then is if that's agreed that they need to do a better job reaching out to him 4 years ago, I feel like they did this time around, and it still is to be determined whether or not that matters in the end. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I mean, I don't know. I thought it was such a screw job as far as the way the party, if they had rallied around him the way they rallied around Biden before South Carolina, he would have run away with the nomination. But they just really, really didn't want him to be the nominee. But he was very. There was he had all the momentum, and we knew he was going to lose South Carolina. We just didn't know how bad. And then the entire party was like, nope, we're just not going to have
the only thing I push back on that with when you say the entire party, those are voters, though. It's the voters of the party. So, that was a choice. And,
voters are the problem, too.
look, but but I think the part of the problem is that I don't know that anyone, one of the whole purposes of the process is you go through the gauntlet, and whoever comes out of the crucible is probably not like anyone's first choice. It's usually a lot of people's second or third choice. That's just how sometimes that works when you come with a consensus.
Mary Brown's got your back on this, James Heskey, by the way.
Thank you, Mary.
But part of the problem is then continuing the fight, and this is I think what you're getting at is like you got to put once those things are over, you have to put those aside and not carry the scars of those types of election. Elections are elections. Like, but it's not life or death. You don't have to hold these like ongoing grudge matches into the next election. So like 2016 shouldn't be an issue in 2020. You shouldn't be relitigating this stuff. It should
I want to say quickly, speaking of life or death, Robert George has joined us. Robert George, wow. Primetime Robert George is on the show. Hey, Robert, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Tom. How are you guys doing? You guys, there aren't any slit wrists or any other bodily parts out there. Is there?
I mean, James and I already started this at a positivity deficit like 3 years ago, so we're really just working our way back to zero.
Okay,
Robert
well,
George, just coming to the stream, by the way, Robert George, columnist for Bloomberg Opinion, erstwhile Republican. Friend of millions.
Well, at least a couple of thousands. At least a couple of thousands.
Robert, how are you doing? What are you thinking? Welcome to the show. What are you thinking tonight? What's the thought?
Well, Donald Trump said that there was not necessarily shy Trump voters out there, but there was a hidden Trump vote out there, and that he would be able to activate them, and that seems to have been the case. Florida is a little bit different in that he appealed to the Hispanic vote down there, and he got it. The Cubans, Venezuelans, some other expats. Miami-Dade was the big county. Hillary Clinton, in one of the positive aspects of 2016, she carried that county by 30 points, and Biden apparently is won that particular county by barely like 8 or 9. And then Trump built up his numbers in now. Biden did very well on like the east part of the state in terms of cutting into Trump's 2016 lead, but Trump's numbers held up, and it looks like last time he won Florida by like I think maybe 1.5% or something like this. This time it looks like he's going to win it by 3. Early on, Biden had been leading in Ohio for most of the night, and now I think Trump's ahead there. So in terms of the early big states, it doesn't look like North Carolina and Georgia. North Carolina is still a little bit up in the air, I guess, but Georgia doesn't look like it's gonna happen. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in Arizona. I mean, the early numbers in Maricopa County seem good, but again, if the story right now is that Trump is maximizing his base, that white non-college vote, and while at least in Florida and maybe in a couple of other states too, actually improving his numbers amongst Latinos, which was something that was hinted at but not completely foreseen. Which, by the way, goes to I think the one big lesson, and I'm surprised more people hadn't written about it. I should have written about it myself. Because
you really dropped the ball on this, Robert.
because of coronavirus and the economy. The one issue that did not really get talked about in 2020. Particularly given, and it was surprising given what happened in 2016, was immigration. We didn't really hear too much about the wall. Trump didn't even hammer Biden that much about being for open borders and things like that. neither side engaged that much on that issue after the Supreme Court basically kind of pushed DACA aside. And I think that may have turned out to be a surprise gift for Donald Trump. He was able to make inroads to Latinos on the economy, and in particular with Cubans, as anti-socialism and things like that. And the issue of immigration was not raised as much, and so that may very well have redounded to his favor. Now, obviously, we still got a long night to go with the upper Midwest states, which we all knew that this race was going to come down to. But it's certainly not looking like it's certainly not looking like any kind of a blue wave that Democrats were hoping for.
Yeah.
Well,
so there you have it.
Wow,
fun
look
times,
at this guy.
folks.
Total pro. Oh man, Robert George.
Fun times.
No wonder they put you on real television. That was really
I mean,
nice.
but it's that nightmare scenario of now Trump is going to he's gonna battle say that the election was stolen. If Biden is able to pull out that blue wall. If that at this point it is a big if.
Well, Milwaukee doesn't even start their mail-in ballots till tomorrow. So
yeah, so I'm just saying Trump is going. So if Biden is able to win by counting all the votes, Trump is going to say it's a stolen election. But that's an if. I don't even know that Biden can win it. I mean, obviously Biden can win, but I don't know that he's going to. I'm just saying I don't.
I honestly think what we're playing.
Just quickly to James's point, something that should be a little bit disconcerting.
A little.
Not only did Biden's underperforming in Florida with the Cuban vote is not completely unexpected, given that historically the Cuban vote has tended to be Republican. However, it looks like Biden also underperformed with Latinos in Texas as well. If that pattern continues, Nevada, which had been a state that Republicans had been talking about for a little while, could be a danger. That could be a danger sign. So if Trump, ends up overperforming in Nevada, and by the way, CNN early on called Virginia for Biden. But Trump had rolled up had rolled up an early lead there, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. So if right now Biden's got a narrow window to run the table in the upper Midwest, but he has to hold on. He has to hold on to all the Hillary states, as well, which including Nevada, including Virginia.
Yes, but again, if he's picking up Arizona, look, I don't know why, I understand Florida and Texas came close, but those are not states that we were counting on. That was like pie in the sky. I hope we run the table. But, Florida's a fucking cesspool. Additionally, this is the second, it's literally built on a swamp. So fuck that state. So that's also the state he moved to. You got everyone down there from fucking Rush Limbaugh to Roger Stone, the fuckery that goes down there. They've been doing this this is decades and decades of between gerrymandering, voter suppression, and just fucking dirty money that is in that state that has been spent in making those elections virtually impossible for Democrats to win while holding out like a fig, oh, you almost might win it. You might win it. Oh, you came within 1%. Oh, no, it's going to fucking still go Republican. So I'm not going to be upset over losing Florida. The other thing is that we have the second presidential election now where we don't have the full protections of the Voting Rights Act because the Supreme Court gutted it in 2013. Yeah. So a lot of this underperformance that you're seeing in states like Texas and states like Georgia and states like in the Carolinas, even in Florida, you have what we were afraid was going to happen when they gutted the Voting Rights Act, which is a decrease in the turnout among people of color, among Latinos. So what we're looking at is the fruits of the labor that Republicans have put in the work, not just this year, but for the past decade, maybe 20 years, maybe longer, in making sure that these areas are like this. And the reason why that we're hammering, we need overwhelming victory. We need to get out the vote in overwhelming numbers, is because they knew that we had to overcome active voter suppression, which we've seen been going on. So partly, yes, I fucking hate people, some parts of this country that still go like this, but also like there are known things that we knew was going to be a tough battle for a victory on election night, but long term with the mail-in ballots that are still to be counted, and we knew that it would go on longer. Like I'm not willing to cede the victory on election night, make believe.
I just want to be clear. I hate no part of this country except for Wilmington, Delaware. The town is a dump. Hannibal, your thoughts. I want to take your thoughts, particularly jumping off of Benari's points about voter suppression, about these sort of the mix of maybe underperformance from a campaign, but also a system set up to allow for underperformances, shall we say?
I mean, just like racism, voter suppression is real, and it's not, it's easily denied. I love Benari's point about the Voting Rights Act being gutted, and now we're living in the repercussions of that. It's very real and it's a huge problem that American citizens who are born in this country and should have this right protected by the Constitution are not able to vote on some completely on some bullshit, and if we watch it play out cycle after cycle, and it's just like, when does it end exactly? And how do we engage more to make it difficult to suppress the vote? How do we protect voters?
Go ahead.
I want to push back a little bit on that thought, because we've had historic turnout. We've had historic turnout in this election, and that cannot be ignored. The issue impacting Joe Biden, just in the context of the Hispanic vote in Florida, is not a case of votes being suppressed.
No, that isn't.
Let Robert finish. Let Robert finish.
Yeah. I mean, the vote was there, but for whatever reason, Biden was not able to. Biden lost. Biden lost the Latino vote in Florida by
he's a shit candidate.
20 points. 20 points
right,
below.
Yeah,
20 points below from what Hillary Clinton, who was not a great one. Anyway, guys, I have to drop out because
I've
back
to prime time, Robert George.
I've got
Thanks for
prime time.
stopping by.
This was absolutely great, fantastic. Hey, everybody out there, donate to the Fridge in New York. They're a great organization. Bye, guys.
Later, Robert George.
I mean, I just want to say. I mean, like this is horrifying. So the reality of this is setting in that it's more likely than not now that Trump will win, and it's.
I'm not going to go that far, but I hear what you're saying. Continue.
But
it won't be the blowout, like as we said before. Like the reality of what we were hoping, which is a country that rejected him whole-heartedly, is not the case.
But anyway, I feel I'm very disheartened about our chances, and I think I think Trump has a very good chance to win right now, and it's definitely what's horrifying is it's just like I think a lot I had sort of taken for granted just the idea that it was like, all right, we're going to get on the other side of all of this, like we'll be able to sort of get to some kind of normalcy. It won't be good. It'll just be better in a few months. And it's like, we're going to have, there's a very good chance we're going to have 4 more worse years than we just had.
Yeah.
mean, there's always that chance, but I still think that we are on the expected path of we're not going to know tonight.
We won't.
A lot of these early voting and ballots haven't even been counted yet, and we know overwhelmingly they're going to go towards Biden just based on returns, and they know that, which is also part of the whole reason why some of these Republican legislatures didn't want to start the early voting, because they wanted to create the whole red mirage or whatever, or depress people or make them feel like, okay, well, we can't win this. But like, he just needs to, if he picked up Arizona, there's just 2 more states out there. If he's holding the states that were won in 2016 and he picks up 2 more states and he's doing well in Michigan and he's doing well in Wisconsin, then he wins it. And he could win it by 1 electoral vote. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. And we won't know tonight, but like, if he wins next week, that's still a victory. So like these weird artificial things that we put on ourselves of like, it's not a victory unless we win Texas. What the fuck are we talking about? They put one polling station in a county with 1 million people. You know, how are we going to win Texas?
To James's point, though, like, the point James said before we start, he's right. Just that, like, it would be very good for the conscience of this country if this wasn't close. And it is difficult, I think, to look at a country to see that Trump has, as Robert rightly put out, like so much, much more hidden support, than we thought. Hannah,
I'd like to speak to some of the. I think the 4 of us. I feel like we're in an episode of Black Mirror or something.
Yeah.
Trying to anticipate this thing that is tonight, from our view, unpredictable. It keeps moving. It's like it has its own consciousness. It's all over the place. So, one, it seems like we've all done our civic duty and fulfilled our part. That's thing one. And thing two is it's just going to do what it does. It's so fascinating. When Robert came on and said Trump was able to pick up Latino voters, this is the same administration that separated kids and their families, and some of those families still aren't reconnected, and put children in cages. It's like, really? How?
This is a bad. I mean, like, there's no way around it. This is not a. Wow. This is not a good country filled with good people.
No, I disagree, James. I was
going to say, you got 2 people who serve this country. But we are certainly a country with a lot of problems. And I spend a lot of time wondering.
America gets to be complicated.
We do get to be complicated.
I was
about to seamlessly transition, but go ahead, Benari.
Oh, no, I was going to say that Democrats lost the Latino vote a long time ago. And if they've been overwhelmingly conservative for a long time, and if it weren't for the Republicans' overt racism and or putting children in cages, they'd actually probably have 100%. The fact that Democrats are even competitive in the Latino, we look at it like, how did you lose that? But like, the reality is that they were naturally a voting bloc that wants to be conservative, and the conservatives keep saying like, we want to put you in cages, and so that kind of hurts them.
I just want to quickly point out James Heskey saying what the women who watch this show are thinking so far. The question, of course, is poised like,
I'm gonna say I'm a ladies' man, but only for just
bad comments.
Just the worst impulses of our nation.
The question was posed like, are we good? Are we bad? My question is always, how did the situation in America get, to the point that it is? To get bad, I guess is a good word for it. And we're going to throw it over to our pal, Megan Sass, who has some of the answers.
Hello, Electoral Dysfunction Election Night Show. Here we are, 2020. Megan Sass coming to you from my apartment in Manhattan with my only red shirt and no pants, because I can hardly find reasons to get out of bed these days, let alone go through the effort of putting on pants. But I'm not wearing a red shirt because I voted red. I'm wearing a red shirt because this is a classic Monkees song, but if it was sung by the GOP to the Democrats, here it is. Sit down, Dems, you should sit down. I've got things to say. Shut down, I'll cause a shutdown if you don't use our rules to play. I said, Dems, I do want to fight. You're a little bit wrong. I'm a little bit right. I said dance, you know that it's true. It's a little bit me, but it's really all you. Do know just what I said wrong, but I won't apologize. Just go back where you came from. We don't need none of your kind. I said dance, please let me fight. You're a little bit wrong, and I'm really far right. I said dance, you know that it's true. It's a little bit me, but it's really all you. Oh, dance, shut up and fight. You're a little bit wrong, and I'm really alt-right. I said dance, you know that it's true. It's a little bit me, but it's really all you. Choose. I hope all of y'all voted.
Reggie, finally you called me back. Yeah, I'm your favorite client. I'm about to be your ex-client. Where are my gigs, Reggie? What happened to all of my starring roles? Calm down. Well, you haven't even seen me upset yet. I know 2020 has been difficult for the industry, but I'm a goddamn star, Reggie. Putting me in a picture is a guaranteed draw. I'm a shoo-in for the movie houses, TV shows, book sales, even the goddamn local news. Nobody has my star power, Reggie. Nobody gets attention like dead white woman. Nobody. I've been the top draw since I burst on the scene as a child star. You remember? I was in every other headline. Missing white girl. Casting me was a guarantee to be the talk of town for weeks, if not months. They couldn't get enough news programs going on and on about how precious and innocent and pure I was, scrambling to find me when I was missing, over and over again. It didn't matter what other crimes were happening at the time or who else was even kidnapped. If the movie was about me being abducted, it was a guaranteed smash. A smash, I tell you. As a young starlet, I was the center of every thriller, action movie, grindhouse flick, every horror picture, and even the occasional romantic comedy. Nothing in those genres even got made without me in it. There isn't even a plot unless missing white woman was endangered. It didn't matter how many people were missing or if there were people of other demographics who were literally endangered right next to me in the same incident. Without me, male protagonists don't even have a purpose. Without me, there's no Taken series, no Nancy Grace. There's no goddamn Super Mario. And oh, when I became dead white woman, how the audiences swooned. I'm a phenomenon like nothing they've ever seen before. It's like an addiction to them. Every mystery novel, legal drama, every episode of Dateline is about me. I'm basically the reason that true crime podcasts are even a thing. And now, what's this that's happening? Now suddenly people are concerned about the fact that I'm getting all the roles when I only make up about 12% of the homicide victims in the United States. Suddenly people are noticing that black men are killed at 3 times the rate of white women, and yet there aren't nearly as many stories about them. And out of nowhere, people are pointing out that even though there are 5 times more white women in the U.S., that nearly as many black women are killed every year. Now, after all this time, they notice, what am I? Chopped liver? I know the stranger abduction of young white girls and women is actually incredibly rare, but I thought that's what made me special. I'm rare, like a diamond, sparkling, gleaming, beautiful, slightly buried under the ground, just waiting for the entire population of a small town to rescue me in great cost to themselves. What? Diamonds are actually incredibly common and the price of them is artificially inflated by a corporation? Huh. Well, never mind about that. Reggie, what are you going to do about my career? At this rate, I'm only going to be on Lifetime movies. What? You have good news? Domestic violence rates are going up. Well, that doesn't seem like good news. Oh, I see. Well, they're going to have to depict this in the media, and they can't just show you what it actually looked like, what actual humans experience in the world in context. Well, that's not camera ready at all. That's just simply not good content. They'll need to call in someone who is glamorous, beautiful, and also photogenic. You're right, Reggie. There is hope for me.
Thank you to our pal, Dr. Timmery, aka Honeytree Evil Eye. Always with the strongest of opinions. Interesting news that just came in. Apparently, in Randolph County in North Carolina, there's been a reporting error that gave Donald Trump 30,000 additional votes. So that is going to be
so weird how that
complicated to figure
happened.
out.
Oh, that's so crazy.
It's going to be an interesting few days, I think, for all of us.
I'm gonna need 3 or 4 more of these.
Yeah. How much did that cost you again?
$95.
All right, cool. So, folks, after you're done giving money to Frigid New York, if you could head to jamesheskey.org.biz, and send him
.gov.
.ninja. Send him $95 a pop for some new whiskey. I think
jamesheskey.whiskey.
Hang on one second. Oh my gosh. I'm really sorry. Wow, this is big. We have a special guest joining us. Jenny, bring him up. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York is here with a quick statement. Please, go ahead, Jenny.
And now a message from the Governor of New York State, Andrew Cuomo.
Hello, I'm New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo. And Chelsea Handler, if you're watching, I totally hit that. It's election night, and anything can happen. But the one thing we do know for sure is that New York is going to go for Biden. I mean, the people of the great state of New York decided long ago that they didn't want to deal with a morally bankrupt politician who acts with impunity while using his mobster ties to get anything he wants. But enough about my father, Mario Cuomo. I mean, yeah, sure, he did those things, but at least he gave the people, what was his legacy? He served like 3 terms. What did he do? Anyway, all right. I guess the lesson here is the people of New York will accept a morally bankrupt politician who acts with impunity using his mobster ties as long as they're socially progressive. Because New York is home to everybody. You know, we got immigrants, we got LGBTQ+, we got Latinos, we even got females. Donald Trump didn't push his white nationalist policies, maybe New York would have gone for him and overlooked his long string of character flaws. I mean, hey, look at me, I just sent my daughter's boyfriend, a New York State trooper, up to the Canadian border. That's like the litmus test for corruption, right? Yet my approval numbers, never been higher. Why? I'm socially progressive. I publicly tell conservatives like Donald Trump to eat shit while constantly leaving New York City to rot. Yet people love me. They're so tolerant of everyone except intolerance. So Donald Trump, I guess it's not your mobster mentality. It's just you. So the next time an authoritarian comes along, and they will come along, they start using their thugs to scare people or their clout to alter the mechanisms of our democracy to serve their own purposes. Just ask yourself, are they progressive enough to get away with it? All right, this is a big night, so let's get out there and vote or whatever. And remember, no matter who wins, Bill de Blasio still sucks ass, and I'll never help fund the city's subway system. I'm Andrew Cuomo, and if you're Chelsea Handler, I want you to get your bony ass over to the governor's mansion as soon as you can.
Oh, thank you, Governor Cuomo. And I feel weirdly compelled to just mention that anyone who writes or performs for this show, their opinions do not necessarily reflect mine. I don't know why. So we're winding down. We're heading towards the end of the show, and I think we've talked a lot about tonight. And I think something again, I brought this up a few times, but James, you put it so perfectly before the show that like a blowout win, like even if a blowout win would have been good for the soul of the country, and we won't get that tonight. And I think a part of why we won't get that is our country has gone through, and continues to go through an incredible identity crisis. we and someone who appeals to our worst instincts can still, exactly as you said, like that he can even have become president in the first place it's a scary thing. But I'm curious, how people are feeling right now as we probably have a few election days ahead. I think the hope that this would be over is over early is not going to happen. I would be very surprised if Joe Biden, concedes anytime soon, while these things are still, particularly Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, are still being counted. But let's go around quickly, and James, I'll let you go last so you can be angriest. Benari, how are we feeling? Like, what are you feeling right now?
Start drinking now.
Right. About this country.
To be honest, it's disappointing that we didn't get the way, because I want my country to be kind. I want my country to reject cruelty. I want my country to overwhelmingly vote in favor of protecting people and helping people and doing good. It's why I joined the service in the first place, because I believe in truth, justice, in the American way. But I'm also cognitive that it's a never-ending battle, and it wouldn't be a never-ending battle if it were easy. And I'm pretty confident that the long road ahead is what I expected. I expected it to be uncertain coming out of election night and a lot of confusion. That's by design, because the people who are currently in charge want it that way. This is the people who run the majority of state legislatures have made it so it's as confusing and as difficult as possible. My feeling is we're going to win. They just don't want us to enjoy it. They're going to make it as painful as possible. They're going to make it as hard as possible. It's going to be long. It's going to be drawn out. But in the end, we are on the right track. Everything, to me, seems to be trending in the right way for an eventual Joe Biden victory, and hopefully, if not an overall Democratic victory in the Senate. I think we're going to split the Senate at the very least now, if not outright win it with a Kamala Harris tiebreaker. So that's what I'm rooting for. That's what I'm pulling for, and I think we are on track for that. Arizona's trending in the right direction. Hopefully, North Carolina holds, but we're counting on you now. And I know those three swing states. We didn't want it to come down to those three swing states, but it's coming down to exactly the three swing states we thought it was going to come down to, and that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. Hannibal, thoughts here, particularly you, like Benari, someone who served this country, thoughts about our country on yet another difficult election night.
So did you guys in middle school read that short story where the person opens the door and they're mauled by a tiger?
Yeah.
You guys remember that one? I feel like we're sitting in that. I have hope. I will always have hope. No matter who wins, the work ahead is tremendous. Do we want a whole lot of work or super double, triple work? Regardless of who wins, there's work for everybody on all levels. And it's not to undermine the power of a presidential election and a Senate election, but it's just like, maybe the silver lining of padding a loss scenario is fucking get involved in your city elections, get involved in your state elections. At the very least, just stay more informed and actually vote on those levels. So there's that. And maybe it's just because I'm a person, because of my all these circles that I roll in, I'm personally liberal, but I have a lot of conservative friends. So it's just like, what's at stake? It's like, how do we see each other when all of this is over, when the dust settles? How can we still see each other as human beings, not like servants of a demagogue or socialists trying to overthrow how do we see each other? How can we relate to each other? That's, as I'm going to try to go to sleep tonight, hoping for a Biden victory. That's kind of where I am.
James Heskey, bring us back down to earth.
Fuck.
Yep, absolutely. Well done. That's your statement?
That's
Well done, James Heskey. Round of applause for him. Interesting, just by the way, breaking within the last half hour, Democrats will retain control of the House of Representatives, on track to do so.
I also just to not be total doom and gloom. Georgia is not a total lost cause right now. So
yeah, a lot of those states that were trending that way, they seem to have slowed down, particularly as they're still figuring out those vote counts. So we've got a long election night ahead of us, as we knew in our hearts of hearts. Election week.
Look, this is probably going to drag on till January 21st.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like just
what if they have to become co-presidents and live together? That could be fun.
It's like
The Odd Couple. There's two men in their 70s. Boy. No offense, men in your 70s. You're wonderful. Dad, I love you. I think
one of them is going to be president.
That's true.
That's all we know.
Yeah. One thing we know for sure is the next 4 years will be full of someone whose son will be worried about them at any given time. I'm going to echo some of those thoughts. A thing I think a lot about this country is that, like, I think we are as textbook an example of you're never as great as you think you are when you're up and not as bad as you think you are when you're down. I think this country is such a like, it's, we in some of our bigger moments, we wish that we were Superman and perfect and Captain America. And in some of our worst moments, we think of ourselves as the worst thing to ever grace this earth, which I still throw to the British Empire. I still give them worse than us. But in many ways, you look at this country, look at the map of the United States. It's such a weirdly mishmashed together group of states. None of the borders make sense. We're like a Frankenstein's monster of a country. Just a bunch of mixed parts that are thrown together, and we are as equally capable of enjoying a tender moment by the side of a lake with a little kid, picking flowers, as we are of accidentally throwing that little kid into a bog to her death. Both things happen in the Boris Karloff Frankenstein. Watch it. And I think every day, not just on
and we
election
even
day.
got to do this summer. We even got to do the whole with California. We got to do the whole fire bad.
That's right. Yeah. Well done. And I think, one thing I get worried about for our future is that on election day, when things don't go our way, but so many of us just decide that, well, all right, that's it, I'm checking out. The excitement, the energy of election day can't be repeated, but so much of what we put into every day of the year leading up to an election, we need to put into every day of the year. Here in New York City, there will be a mayor's race next year. It will be next June. Yeah. We need to have lines as long for that as we had for the presidential race. If we want to see, if we want to see all the things we argue about for our city, there will be governor's races. There will be more elections. They will happen. Whatever happens tonight, and this goes both ways. If Joe Biden ekes out a win, guess what? Those of us on the left have to be ready to keep him accountable, to make sure that his decision off of tonight is not, well, maybe I should keep the conservatives happy. And then also making sure that progressives stay in office during a tough midterm. If Donald Trump wins, we got to repeat what we did in 2018. The work will always be ahead of us, and the choice is ours to make every single day on whether or not we take part in that work. And I have to say, doing this show, I do not consider doing the work, but it's a chance for me to talk with people like the three of you who care so much. And what, on a good night, I was hoping tonight would be a brighter evening. Although again, jury's still out, but on a good night or a sad night, any chance I get to talk with people like the three of you about what's happening in the world, is a good thing. And with that, we come to the end of our electoral dysfunction election night. That's what she said.
I'm all going to point to my tits.
Please. All right. All right, Heskey. All right, I'm muting Heskey for the rest of the show. This is the end of our show. I want to thank everyone who helped us make this show possible. Thank you to Keisha Zoller. Thank you to Phil Casal. Thank you to, let me go down my list because I wrote it down because I knew I'd leave someone out if I wasn't careful. All right, Keisha Zoller, Phil Casal, Killy Dwyer, Rich Templeton, David Frazier, Marceli Jean-Pierre, Megan Sass, Dr. Timmery Schmidt, and Andrew Kimler. I want to say thank you to Robert George for stopping by. Thank you so much to Jenny Yasko and all the folks at Frigid New York for helping us put this show on. You were such great help. Thank you to Ned Thorne for helping me edit some of these videos together and for being our opening announcer. Thank you very much to Joanne Harris, to Declan Shalvey, Jordy Belair, Kevin Scott, and all the other people who helped us put together all of the resources that have created Electoral Dysfunction and sustained it for the last 8 years or so. And with that in mind, to close off our broadcast day, I throw to, and thinking of the conversation we just had, I throw to the most beautiful voice I have ever had the pleasure of hearing live. Jenny Yasko, please throw it down to the great city of Charlotte, North Carolina, where Jamelia Patah will play us out. Good night, America.
Free